Welcome to today's webcast titled When Machines Talk, They Share Insights for IoT Success. Today's program will be presented by Robin Duke-Woolley, Chief Executive Officer of Beecham Research, and Dr. Yerman Kramer, Chief Product Officer of IoT and Analytics. As we move through today's program, we invite you to submit any questions that you might have. The question box is located in the Questions tab of your GoToWebinar menu panel. Type your question into that box and hit Submit when you're ready. With that being said, I'd like to pass it over to you, Robin.
Right, thank you very much, Danielle. I'll move over to my first slide. Right, so this is following the production of our report measuring IoT project success, which is available free at www.measureIoTsuccess.com. And it's about achieving business objectives using IoT. And I'd like to draw a distinction at the start between achieving IoT solution objectives and achieving business objectives. Because what we're seeing now in the marketplace is that the business objectives are changing over time. And it's then a question of whether the IoT solution objectives catch up with that, and oftentimes they're not. So that's a key issue, I think, that we are finding in the marketplace now. So let me just recap what's going on in the marketplace. On the left-hand side, we have two slides that go together, two charts that go together, and on the right-hand side, a further one from a separate survey. So on the left-hand side, current IoT deployment sizes from a survey that we conducted. And that showed that although 27% were under 100 connections, 26% were over 10,000 connections. So in other words, if we'd done this survey 3 years ago, in fact, we did do it 3 years ago, the number of connections over 5,000 was quite small because they were relatively small implementations. But now we're getting to much larger implementations. At the same time, the chart underneath that, expected growth in next 24 months, 61% are looking at over 10% growth in the next 24 months. And 22%, of course, looking at over 40% growth. So quite a substantial expectation of growth over the period. So the deployment sizes are growing quickly, and with that, the business objectives are changing as well. And I'll come to that in a minute. On the right-hand side, we have another survey that shows similar information but done in a different way. So the question was, how many connected devices do you plan to put into the field within the first 12 months? And this is to people who are approaching the project from scratch, from first implementation. And 65% are relatively small. But then, how many connected devices do you plan to put into the full-scale production? And 45% are up to 10,000 lines, and then we got 21% over 10,000 and 15% over 100,000. So we're talking about huge growth over the next few years. Moving then on to, I just jumped 2 slides. Moving on to the next one, we have at what stage is your IoT project? So we were asking people where are they at, and we have the normal spread in the early parts of not yet deployed and pilot and trial and stage 1. But what's increasing now is much more stage 2 major deployments. There were fewer trials and more major deployments. So it's saying similar stuff to what I said in the last slide. And then which of these types of IoT applications are you currently using? And we talk about types of IoT applications in terms of real-time monitoring, non-real-time monitoring, real-time data analysis, tracking movable assets, and so forth. And again, if we'd done this 3 years ago, we would have seen non-real-time monitoring as being by far the largest. But now we're seeing real-time monitoring overtaking that, and also real-time data analytics certainly catching up. So it's moving towards real-time, and it's also moving towards data analysis rather than just straight connectivity. So all of those things need to be taken into account. On the next slide, moving from trials to major deployments, what changes are required in doing that? This is the left-hand chart, and here it's clear that if you're moving from a proof of concept to a large deployment, then there are major changes that need to be made to the IoT solution. But I would say also that if you're moving from one set of objectives to another set of objectives, business objectives, then there may be significant further changes that need to be made. And this is the point that we're really getting to, that we may be keeping up with the first set of changes, but are we keeping up with subsequent changes to solutions? And then the slide on the right, the chart on the right, is the makeup of teams to provide support for IoT solutions. So 41% primarily using in-house resources, 45% using a mixture of both in-house and external, and then a relatively small 14% using primarily external, so outsourcing the whole thing. So there's the mix of both is very important there. And if there's sufficient expertise internally, primarily in-house, there is a correlation between size of company and primarily in-house. So that would equate with that. Now we're moving on to what we found 3 years ago in a survey that we conducted. We asked, how successful was your IoT project? And we found at the time that 58% were either wholly or partially unsuccessful. Then a further 30% were mostly successful but not fully successful, and then 12% fully successful. Quite a dire situation there. And then on the right-hand side, how important were these project objectives, and then to what extent were those objectives achieved? And really, I would say that few business objectives were being achieved at that point. Most were being missed. Now that's changed a bit since we've done this again. The chart on the left compares what we found in 2020 compared with what we're finding in 2023. So we believe that there's about a 28% improvement on the 2020 findings, and we're seeing that we've moved much more towards reasonable success. But the devil is in the detail, as it always is. And when we move on to the charts on the right, we see how important were these objectives for the project. That's the top question. But then, to what extent have these project objectives been achieved? Here we've sorted those whose projects are mostly or fully unsuccessful in their scoring of success to date. And we can see that there is quite a lot that is not being achieved. There's a lot in the middle ground of somewhat achieved, but particularly for some objectives, we're seeing not at all achieved. And in particular, what we're seeing that for is driving revenue and enabling new business models. These are important because they are related to adding value, and they are the key objectives when it comes to digital transformation or business transformation. So I think that we can say that from this, is that what's being achieved at the moment is cost reduction, but not adding value so much. Now, when we turn to the last slide that I'm going to show, this is really what the measuring of success of IoT projects is intended to be. So the question is, how will you measure the success of your IoT deployment? 43% were saying reduced cost, 52% adding value, and 4% compliance. These are the three main reasons for introducing IoT. Either you want to reduce costs, or you want to add value in some way, or you have a compliance issue that you need to check. So you need to conform to a particular regulation, something like that. And that's always going to be less, but it's always there. And it's always important to make sure that you do comply, otherwise there might be huge fines. What we're finding then in the marketplace is that the reduced cost was always the primary objective for initial IoT projects. But now adding value is becoming more important. And that's reflected in these driving new revenue and new business models. And we're seeing that's the area that's lagging. So what we believe is happening here is that IoT solutions are being implemented for cost reduction, fine, but they're perhaps not moving forward to adding value to the same degree. And what is required to change the value, to add value? What is different in an IoT solution when you're adding value compared with reducing costs? Well, I think that's something that we're going to be talking about in the rest of this webinar. So I'm now going to hand over to, I think we're going to have a video, and then we're going to have Jürgen is going to present some slides. So over to you.
Thank you so much, Robin. And yes, we will go ahead and show a short video to highlight some of these key takeaways. So let's go ahead and roll the video.
Today, we take for granted many of life's essential services, like fresh water, clean energy, and precise medicines. We tend to forget that the cornerstone in providing these services is industrial equipment, made by long-established companies who have successfully grown their businesses by focusing on delivering premium quality. However, the market has progressed, and manufacturing a high-quality product is no longer a guarantee for success. What the world demands now is the reassurance of continuous operation. The future is clear. To survive, equipment manufacturers must innovate and improve operational performance, field service, and customer experience to maximize the value delivered. Unfortunately, these challenges are impossible to solve without real-time equipment insights. This is the reason why equipment manufacturers increasingly turn to the Internet of Things. But building these smart, connected products to run continuously and reliably at scale is no easy feat. Selecting the wrong approach or technology can be expensive and set you back years, allowing your competition to gain an upper hand. That's why leading industrial equipment providers use Cumulocity IoT. Cumulocity IoT provides you with everything you need to make your product smart and connected. Cumulocity IoT is available on any cloud. Its unique self-service capabilities allow you to adopt a buy and build approach, which unlocks a faster time to market and lower total cost of ownership without needing an army of developers. Cumulocity IoT not only enables you to remotely monitor deployed equipment and optimize field services, but also allows you to offer new digital services to wow your customers. All in a matter of weeks rather than months. So remember, if it's worth connecting, connect it with Cumulocity IoT.
So what you now heard about is you saw some introduction video, and you heard about our product name Cumulocity IoT, which is our industrial IoT platform, and we have a very global customer base. And in the video, you also saw that we focused on so-called equipment makers, which are manufacturers of industrial equipment and machinery. And so they are interested to innovate with smart connected products. And the interesting thing is that we find them in different industrial verticals. For example, we have connected painting robots from Dürr in manufacturing paint shops of cars. We have connected elevators from Schindler, so that's the transportation space. Yeah, we have freezers from Eppendorf, that's medtech. We have excavators, big excavators at construction sites from Liebherr, or wind turbines, yeah, from Nordex, or medical equipment from Hillrom, so healthcare. You can see, but they all have the same challenges across different verticals. Number one, they need to innovate and differentiate. So just building the next best compressor or the next best wind turbine is not enough. They need to connect the wind turbine and innovate through software. And most of these enterprises understand that this innovation is needed, because otherwise they just are left competing on price, and that's not a good future. Then the other reasons are they want to lower their operations costs, and they also feel some pressure from their customers on these new outcome-based business models, equipment as a service, usage-based pricing, and so on. And you only get there if you connect your product, if you measure the usage, if you know what's going on with the equipment in the field. And the last point is about the revenues and margins. They see a decline in sales volumes. That means the margins and also the sales volume with just the equipment is going down. But they see, oh, the aftermarket businesses, this is where they make the money. Yeah. And now with digital services, they can even grow that aftermarket business. So these are the key drivers. But then they ask themselves the question, they understand the drivers, they know, hey, I need to move and I want to move. But then the big question is, should I buy it? Or do I build an IoT solution? And then it's like in a journey when you climb a mountain. At the beginning, things look very nice, smooth, the weather is perfect, the conditions are, it's sunny, easy going, yeah. But the further you go, the more rough conditions can get. And what does that mean now in terms of IoT projects? That many of them fail, like Robin already said. And we are often asked to replace homegrown solutions or other IoT platforms that don't meet the requirements. Yeah? Too many customizations needed. The costs are too high. So project costs for the customizations and implementation, or the infrastructure costs of the whole platform. Also global rollouts. The things don't scale as needed. Global rollouts fail and so on. And then the project is often stopped. And what's the problem? That many of these equipment makers, yeah, which are basically engineering companies, so they develop nice products like compressors, wind turbine, and so on, so really sophisticated products. They are engineering companies, and they try to build an IoT solution now more or less from scratch. And in the beginning, like you see on the pictures here, in a POC or pilot, everything's successful, yeah. And then maybe the board says, okay, this looks good. They connected a few products via MQTT to their application, things are fine. Then the board says, perfect, do a global rollout, connect our global fleet. So they have to scale from, I don't know, 10, 50 devices from the POC to thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of devices in different countries with different requirements and so on. And this is where things become really difficult. The solutions need to be highly available. They need to be scalable. They need to be certainly secure. You have to deal with different protocols, with different regulations, different standards. And what that means is you need a bigger and bigger development team. Things take longer and longer, and your TCO goes up. And then all of a sudden, they also understand that this is not a project. What they develop is actually a product. Yeah. So this has a life cycle, yeah, and needs to be supported and maintained and will never stop, right? So they will release new innovation to their customers, and they have to go on and go on and go on. And then these things get more and more expensive, and then often the projects are stopped because the TCO is exploding. And what happens is that the equipment makers are losing also their focus. Yeah, from our perspective, they should focus on the innovation and differentiating parts, and not on building the full foundation underneath. Now, to link back to what Robin said, right? So these cost reduction projects, and then also this new revenue, where you really then move to new business models. For equipment makers, we developed we call it the majority curve here, and you can see that's the typical curve we see that we recommend customers to go through to move successfully to equipment as a service. Yeah. Some try to start somewhere in the middle or at the top, and that's often the case when you fail. What it basically means is it's a digital transformation, and you should use this equipment as a service as a North Star. Yeah, this is something to bring your board or your C-level executives on board and get the buy-in so that you can move along that journey. But then don't start directly with equipment as a service. That's a bit too much. Start small, yeah, with clear use cases where you understand the business case. And the first thing you need to do is you need to connect the equipment. So phase one that you see here at the bottom, this is really connecting the equipment, getting basic insights into machine behavior and machine usage. And that's mainly an internal use case for your product development and R&D departments. And then in phase two, that's what also Robin said, that's about cost optimizations. So you leverage IoT to improve existing business processes, yeah? How you do field service with your customers, how you can do, for example, analytics or apply analytics for smarter equipment to be more efficient, to save energy, to improve quality and so on. And there's a lot of value and money to make in phase one and phase two, and this will take quite some time. But then after that, you're prepared to move into phase three, which is much more than technology. Yeah? Phase three means you need to transform your organization, because people now you're touching the business model. So people need to understand that for equipment as a service, yeah, that's not the use case, it's a new business model. And many roles in the organization will change drastically. For example, your sales needs to understand that they will not sell machines anymore, but rather subscriptions, yeah, with a usage-based and outcome-based pricing model. And even more tricky, the service teams will turn from a revenue center into a cost center and so on. So that needs proper preparation and guidance. And what we recommend our customers, to come back to that question, should I buy or build, is actually the combination, buy and build. And so instead of building more or less everything from scratch with the high risk that these projects fail, we say, hey, rather choose a platform like Cumulocity IoT as the foundation, so that's the buy part, and then focus your development on the thing on top, that's the build part. So you can use your domain expertise to bring in the differentiation you want, and you can use your valuable developers to build the differentiating parts in the solutions that you then take to your customers. Yeah. So the combination buy and build is key, and we have certainly in the platform the basic services, you can see that at the bottom, yeah, but also then ready to use tooling that allows domain experts to implement analytical logic or integration logic without coding. While the platform is open also for the developers to do the hard stuff, yeah, so they then can code in Java, for example, or they can develop machine learning models in Python if they want. That's the buy and build strategy. And now let's look into some examples. Let's start at the bottom with a very easy use case, remote monitoring, focused on the persona of a product development unit or product management team. Yeah, and here the example I want to share with you is Industrial Scientific. They're a global company with employees in 21 countries, and they offer gas detection technologies. So industrial safety equipment. So they have these gas detection units, and they connected them to Cumulocity and offer device management and innovative services around. For example, gas leakage detection, real-time dashboards to show what's going on in the gas network, and the remote monitoring for that, and productivity tracking. They have customers in the oil and gas area, for example, ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP. And the challenge was, as so often I said it, they had a legacy monitoring platform that failed to scale. Yeah, so they run into issues. And it was also very difficult to bring in innovation, so to enhance it. Also, the gas meters require additional levels of reliability and security. And they also then wanted to shift from a one-time equipment sale to revenue from data-driven insights. And with our buy and build strategy, they liked that approach very much. They were able to move from their existing legacy solution over to Cumulocity in just 12 months. And they now can also bring in innovation 2 times faster than before because of this buy and build approach, because they can focus really on the differentiation and not on the underlying stuff. And that was coming certainly with a cost reduction, you know. And also we offer that to them, that it was also important as a SaaS model. So it's a usage-based model fully in the cloud, and we operate that cloud for them. And because they can now offer these digital services to their customers, that's a differentiator for them against other meter providers, and that helps them to better compete in the market. The next example I would like to share is around field services. So now we're turning from the equipment maker to the customers of the equipment maker, and the field service teams that take care of the equipment out there in the field. And here the example is Flexco. They are a leading industrial conveyor belt manufacturer, and they have certainly also services around these conveyor belt products. They are quite big, actually, 800 employees, but a large distributor network in more than 1,800 distributors in 150 countries. That's what I meant was quite big. And they have these conveyor belts in different use cases, from mining to agriculture to transportation. And they also needed a scalable but still customizable platform. And they also need an equipment monitoring in harsh or distant customer locations. So imagine you have a mine very far away, somewhere out. Remote monitoring is quite useful. Otherwise, you always need to travel. They wanted to gain real-time visibility into the usage and performance of the conveyor belt plates, and ideally preempt part failure and minimize the frequency with which engineers must enter these difficult environments for on-site inspection. If we now look at the architecture, you can see they have these i3 devices. That's the devices in the top left. That's rugged edge devices running on a Linux OS with an end-to-end security. That these devices help them to record, process, and transmit data regularly every few minutes from an accelerometer, a gyroscope, a thermometer, a hygrometer, and a microphone. And they use this data and the insights to discover previously hidden issues, like poorly maintained equipment, which then increase the likelihood, certainly if they don't detect it, of belt damages and downtime, and that's not good. And they build dashboards, you can see them at the top right, to show critical events around the globe and alert the team so that they can act and correct the issue, ideally proactively. So they increase the cleaning efficiency and also reduce the risk across the sites. To give you some numbers on how that worked, the migration from their legacy platform to Cumulocity was only 4 months, from contract signature to going live. And we rolled that solution out already in 6 countries in these 4 months. So 4 months, go live in 6 countries. Flexco developed this Elevate Me application. You can see it there, the dashboard, and also the mobile app. And on top of Cumulocity, as I said, sitting on top of AWS. So the hyperscaler underneath is AWS. We're using also the AWS data lake for long-term cost-efficient data storage and the machine learning. And we developed then a cockpit, a dashboard application in Cumulocity, a mobile app, so that their field teams can use the platform and the applications. This includes also an alarms and email notification in real time and an integration with Salesforce and APIs for their most important partners. With this solution, Flexco achieved a less than 5-minute device installation and commissioning, and they reduced expensive field service visits with a customer self-service business model, because they can also, with this mobile app, give that to their customers so they see when things go wrong and can detect, for example, cleaners that are disengaged, so identify deficiencies, or also then replace cleaner blades and so on if carrybacks happen at the plates. And overall, they also increased the people safety due to reduced number of dangerous conveyor visits. And now let's go into phase 3, which is the equipment as a service. And here I want to show you an innovative example from a startup called Waynes. And this step, equipment as a service, is certainly easier for a startup because they don't need to do a big organizational transformation. Nonetheless, their business model and offering is quite innovative. And if you're interested in a traditional equipment maker that successfully managed that to do that transition towards equipment as a service, I would like to refer you to one of our existing webinars where we talked about DMG Mori. They are a milling machine company, for example, and they launched their Payzar offering, pay with zero risk, and that's exactly this transition. Now Waynes, what do? They do digital pest control, and they leverage smart technology to address this niche gap in the market. Their product is called TrapTis. You see it at the top and at the bottom, these images. It's to monitor insect and rodent infestations and to certainly then implement countermeasures quickly. So pest control, for example, for cockroaches, bugs, or moths is not the most popular topic, right? But subject for high compliance requirements in many areas. And in the past, pest control was primarily handled in a traditional way, for example, in logistics, gastronomy, food, pharmaceutical business, meaning that the traps were set and checked at regular intervals. And this could be very costly and time consuming, with staff being especially scarce in this industry. And for high-tech store facilities, this means the production downtime once or twice a year because the facilities need to be shut down for the inspections. And for pest controllers, these inspections are hard work, often around the clock, 7 days a week. And depending on the customer, hundreds of pests need to be counted and clustered manually. And with TrapTis, Waynes now gives pest control companies a customized smart solution based on Cumulocity IoT. The TrapTis insect consists, this is the device, consists of a monitor box which contains an attractant or pheromone and a digital unit that uses sensors to capture the environmental data, such as humidity, temperature, and transmit it to Cumulocity, to the cloud. And they also send a live image of the adhesive surface. And the issue of rodent monitoring is also covered. The TrapTis rodent product allows pest controllers and their customers to digitally monitor snap traps to optimal resource planning. And the use of these manual rodent traps is subject to very restrictive regulations. And the traps must be frequently checked on site by pest controllers. And that not only costs time, but drives high personal costs as well. So with our solution here, we have very customizable, flexible dashboards, buy and build again, that enable the users to conveniently check the TrapTis data. So the traps are connected to the cloud via Wi-Fi or LoRaWAN, and then the cloud solution is equipped with an AI tool that categorizes the objects in the live images into pests, vermin or beneficial insects, and populates the dashboard with this information. So companies can detect the infestations faster and significantly easier, allowing them to prevent further damage through timely countermeasures. So routine controls are no longer conducted on-site. Instead, they are done digitally. So downtimes in production facilities are a thing of the past. And this is all offered in a new IoT-enabled service model, which is unique in the industry. So it's a subscription model where you get then the traps together with a service where you can log into the Cumulocity platform as a tenant, and that's offered together as a pay-as-you-go offering. Now let's move to our fireside chat, and Robin will join me for that.
Absolutely, that's great. Thanks very much. I'd like to ask you a question about one of those business cases, actually, but possibly not the pest control. So the Flexco case, the one before that.
Okay.
Are there success metrics you'd be able to share on that, sort of to bring it in line with the report that we wrote?
Yeah, and I actually prepared that also for our conversation here, because that's quite nice. You saw the solution architecture already, and I share that, but that's approaching the topic again from a technical angle, right? So they run into technical issues, scalability, and so on, needed to migrate. And yes, we saw that these technical issues. But if we now look at the business objectives, that's also very interesting. And here you see, I want to share 3 examples from Flexco. The first one is an aggregate site that had inconsistent maintenance. So on average, 30 to 40% of their 60 cleaners in that case were disengaged at any given time. So when they installed these i3 devices, that's the ones I showed you in the picture, they installed 25 of them to the most problematic cleaners. And then the maintenance team, based on that data, was able to identify deficiencies through the i3 dashboard and to proactively service the cleaners. And this led to savings, 120,000 US dollar savings, consisting of 24,000 in equipment replacements, so expenses avoided, 33,000 in reallocated labor from time spent on the replacements, which doesn't now be done, and then 64K in reclaimed production was decreased downtime. Yeah? So overall, 121,000. The next example, another customer from Flexo, is a sand and gravel operation. So they connected 8 of these devices to the Elevate solution and to monitor the carryback at the plates. And based on the proactive service of the cleaners, that led to a boost in the production output. And here again, 162,000 US dollars could be saved in repurposed labor and prevented product waste per year. And the last one is also another customer, an above ground mining operation, wanted to understand replacement rates for components given their harsh site conditions. So what happened so far was they did a regular replacement of the cleaner plates each year. And now they installed 10 of these devices on new Flexco cleaners to monitor runtime hours against blade wear rates. So what they did is a condition monitoring and predictive maintenance with the Flexco Elevate solution, and that resulted in savings from on-demand replacements. Around 15,000 US dollars annual blade savings, plus another 9,000 for reallocated manpower. And there you see very nicely how you link the IoT solution to very tangible business outcomes.
That's great. Yeah.
So now let me also ask a question. I talked now for quite some time, Robin. Now with your market view, how relevant is IoT as an enabling technology for business? Yeah? Or is IoT still en vogue, or is it dead? Let me be even more provocative. Yeah?
No, I think IoT is becoming more important over time. So as solutions become more complex and people begin to, IoT is becoming more central to business operations, I think IoT solutions are becoming increasingly important. I mentioned earlier on this reducing cost, adding value, and compliance, and I think that those are like the headlines, if you like, for operations. And it's this move from reducing cost to adding value is quite tricky to do. As you were saying, there's a business transformation there, which is not necessarily simple to do, and I think it's quite difficult for organizations to do it on their own, for example. But that's what we're getting into now with IoT in terms of really driving new opportunities, and that's where the market has got to, and that's where if you like, the differentiation that you mentioned is really coming to be much more important. I think, to some extent, everybody can reduce costs, but that's a very much of an internal thing. An external thing that where you're actually driving differentiation in the marketplace is much more about driving new value in some way, shape, or form. And it's really making sure that the IoT solution keeps up with that. So if you introduced cost reduction to start with, are you then moving it forward, the solution forward to an adding value type of approach? So I think that's becoming increasingly important. Yeah.
And adding value here can be, on the one hand side, new digital services that you offer, for example, with connected products, right? So that's more, for example, new aftermarket services, like I mentioned, or even then completely new revenue streams if you move to an entirely new business model on top then, right? It can be both. Yeah?
Absolutely. Yes, it can be both. It's kind of like degrees. And for some, the equipment as a service is more relevant than others, but there's nevertheless a whole sort of series of adding value that you can do, because once you have a connection, you can add lots of new things to it without having to have a new connection. So there's a lot of additional value that you can add over time as the operation becomes more mature. And it's that I think that we need to look at in the IoT space and see, are we actually keeping up with all of those kinds of requirements as they develop? So that's I think the key thing that we're trying to draw attention to here is keeping up with the business objectives, with the IoT project objectives, if you like. Are they keeping up with that? So I'd like to ask you a question related to that, which is bringing solutions to market faster is really important as part of that. And how would you say Cumulocity IoT helps to bring business solutions to market faster, to get that objective, that business objective through more quickly and then pay for it more quickly?
Yeah, I think in short, it's the buy and build approach. So what that means is you don't need to start from scratch. You can start on top of a very sophisticated platform foundation already, yeah, that gives you a lot of capabilities out of the box, scaling, secure, and so on. But also with Cumulocity, we have configurable apps ready to use in the platform, like our device management. You can immediately use it. There's no need to build something on top of a hyperscaler or even from scratch. You can just get started with our device management. We also have self-service industry analytics tools and integration tools. That means you can put a tool into the hands of your domain experts, so non-coders, yeah. So the guys who understand the process and the data, and they can interpret the data and can work with the tool to get outcomes quickly, right? And these are the things that come with Cumulocity. And that certainly, if this buy and build approach reduces the development times and helps your team to focus on the differentiation, and both together is key to bring solutions faster to the market. You know? And even that's interesting. Now with some of our global system integrators, they confirm that. And for customers, they even said, hey, it's more important that we can deliver a solution faster and value faster than selling more days to the customer. So even the global system integrators now jump on that buy and build train. Maybe a final question for you from my side here, and then we open it up for the audience. You've heard about this consolidation in the marketplace, right? So IBM stopping Watson IoT, Google giving up with their IoT platform, SAP also looking into new ways to build business applications without using Leonardo and so on. So what's your view on why is that happening?
Well, I think it's an extension of what's been happening for quite some time. I mean, we had in previous generations of IoT, if you like, we had consolidation of the connectivity part of the solution, and we've been through massive consolidation there. And it's kind of like because when you start to scale and you need to support larger configurations, larger deployments, there are more issues that need to be covered. So that was why the consolidation occurred primarily in the connectivity part. Now we're really getting consolidation in the data analytics area, and I think that's all we're seeing actually is a consolidation process, where those who are keen to specialize and get deeper into the detail of IoT solutions, they're the ones that are accumulating, if you like, and then others are not so keen to do that. And I think that may sound a bit odd, but actually I think that's what's going on.
So I think maturing. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a market maturity thing that we're seeing, I think. And, it's a constant process. So there'll be continue to be more of that, and it's just the way that we see things at the moment.
Good.
Shall I ask you just another question, or should we move over to Q&A?
Let's move to the Q&A. We have 12 minutes left. Let's give the audience a chance to ask some questions. And yeah, Danielle, you might have a view on your
Absolutely. So yeah, we do have a couple questions coming in, so let's just jump right into it. Great conversation, guys. So let's keep it going, and we're encouraging the audience to join in on the conversation as well. This is your opportunity to ask the panelists anything that might be on top of mind. So first question we have looks like this would be to you, Robin. How do you see OT and IT converging fastest? And does this factor IoT success?
Yeah, let me see how. I would say where is one way of looking at it. This OT IT convergence is pretty important in some areas. It's kind of like the way of breaking down the silos and developing new value by bringing the OT and IT side together. And it's a really difficult thing to do because obviously they've grown up over many years in separate areas, and bridging the gap is not easy. But we're beginning to see that in particularly the industrial sector and the need in the manufacturing sector in particular is really, if you like, driving the OT IT convergence stakes, and that's we're beginning to see some real value created by doing that. But I think that other areas too are beginning to catch up, like healthcare and retail and energy. I think that those are all important. And then, of course, there's transportation systems as well, moving the sort of manual towards much more digital and integrating that with the IT infrastructure is a long process, but clearly can make significant differences. So Jürgen, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Not on the where, but I see it in particular successful if large organizations form these, how should I call it, vertical functions where they bring OT and IT under a joint leadership. Like a digital unit in a big organization. And this organizational structure, if you have these digital units where you align OT and IT, then helps also to break the silo and make people work against the joint goals.
Awesome. Thank you both. And we have another great question that just popped in. So the question from the audience member is, why are IoT projects not scaling? Because real value comes from project scale. Is it because of high device cost, complex OT IT integration, or perhaps security?
Sorry, could you repeat the question? Why
Sure.
are IoT projects failing? Is that or not failing? I couldn't quite make out that.
Sure. It's a long question here. Good one. So why are IoT projects not scaling? Because real value comes when projects scale. Is it because of high device cost, complex OT IT integration, or perhaps security?
I'm not quite sure what to make of that. Do you know what to make of that, Jürgen?
Yeah, so actually we see quite a big number of IoT projects scaling out. I think that's actually a big difference compared to a few years ago. There, most of the customers did pilots with a few hundred, a few thousand devices. And now, because of the maturing market, we see customers with large global rollouts going into hundreds of thousands, into millions of devices. And this is where we then also run into the problems and have the migration projects, like I mentioned. The platform underneath needs to support these global rollouts. So it needs to be highly automated. It needs to be designed in an API-led way to make that possible, because you need to do highly automized. For example, you have a device fleet, a few 100,000 devices deployed in, like Schindler, for example, deployed all over the place, all over the world, right? And you now want to update a firmware or software on these devices. You can't do that manually, with your field teams in the regions. You need to do that in a highly automated way. And Cumulocity, for example, has features and in a highly automated bulk update process, so that you can say, okay, I want these types of elevators. You can define device profiles, updated with this software and firmware, and then it automatically happens behind the scenes. If the connections are there, there's automatically reattempt and so on. So that's what I'm meaning with high automation to manage these large fleets. So that's a technical question. The security, yes, in some environments, in particular in the medical space, yeah, and we also have some government customers, their security is in the beginning the hurdle, but if you sorted that, then you can scale. So scaling is the second step. You have to figure out the security first. And then the other one is really on the customization. If you need to do too many manual things, cost will kill you, you know? And the platform also needs to be implemented in a way that it can scale cost efficiently. Yeah, that, for example, means that things like in Cumulocity, we have a multi-tenancy built in. So we have tenants and subtenants, so that ensures data isolation and so on, which is quite nice. And this uses the underlying infrastructure in a very efficient way, because you don't need to set up dedicated VMs for your customers. Yeah. But it's rather a shared environment, but still separated. And these things at the end impact your TCO heavily. Yeah? And that's why other projects also get too costly.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Perfect. All right, let's move on to the next question. I think we have a couple more minutes left. And this one, what needs to be ensured beyond technology using Cumulocity IoT as an enabler? Robin, did you want to start with this one?
Well, I think the whole issue of business transformation is important there. So beyond technology, it's how you plan it and bring it to life, and also meet the overall business objectives. So I think that it's not just a technology thing that we are interested in here. It's the business transformation that's important, and the technology is a means to an end. So I think it goes beyond the IoT platform, if you like. The IoT platform provides all of the bits that you need to enable it, but you've got to know exactly what it is that you want to do and how you're going to do it before you implement that. So Jürgen, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, it's this majority curve that I talked about. It's a transformation, right? And you need to, for that transformation, you need to have the people on board, and you need to also have the right mindset of the people. So that's very important. You need to explain them why you are doing that, how you can do it, give them the guidance. And for that journey, you also need partners. So it's not just your team and an IoT platform like Cumulocity. You also need partners. I always talk about the burger. You know, the IoT platform is the patty in the middle, right? But you need the device partners at the bottom of the burger, yeah, to connect the devices, yeah, so get access to the sensors and actuators, use the right protocols to get the data into the edge and cloud. And then on top, you need implementation partners, yeah, and domain experts to finally then build a valuable solution for your customers. Yeah, and this burger together is an end-to-end solution, and there's no vendor that can do everything end-to-end on its own.
Perfect. Awesome. And great questions. We have a few more that we'll take offline and respond to you all personally to make sure that they're all answered and responded to. Thank you, Robin and Jürgen. Thank you all for joining, and until next time, we will see you.